Egypt, birthplace of one of the oldest, most powerful, and longest-lasting civilizations on Earth. This spectacular aerial journey, with privileged access to incredible sights, will show how the magnificent achievements of the ancients helped shape the Egypt of today. Flying over this country's vast and varied landscapes, our bird's-eye view reveals how generations of Egyptians battled harsh terrain and scorching temperatures to build a nation like no other. Egypt, covering nearly 400,000 square miles and home to almost 100 million people. It's the biggest and most populous country in the Arab world. Life here has always been a challenge. 97% of the terrain is harsh, arid desert. So how did the ancient Egyptians build such a powerful civilization? A bird's-eye view of the country reveals the answer. The mighty River Nile. At over 4,000 miles, it's the longest river in the world. Without it, the ancient Egyptians may never have founded an empire or built magnificent monuments. The most iconic of these ancient wonders lies 8 miles from the center of Egypt's capital, Cairo. From the air, the scale of the engineering is incredible. Made of an estimated 10 million tons of stone, these are some of the largest pyramids ever built. The oldest and biggest is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Completed over 4,500 years ago, it's formed from more than 2 million sandstone blocks. Each block weighs more than a car. Created as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, it's the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world to survive to the present day. At 480 feet high, it remained the tallest structure on Earth for 3,500 years. The pyramids of Giza fascinate American archaeologist Mark Lehner so much, he's dedicated 4 decades of his career to unlocking their secrets.
Well, from that very first site of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the Giza pyramids have basically been my life. I spent 46 years actually studying the pyramids. Who are the people who built them? What do we know about them? What do we know about how they did it?
People from all over the world come to marvel at the pyramid's majesty. Yet it's the remains of more modest structures nearby that unlock how the ancients built these mighty tombs.
In order to create pyramids on such a gigantic scale, they had to create a whole infrastructure. We have found the footprint of that infrastructure.
An aerial view reveals a huge labor force was once brought here for construction.
So what we have found in the so-called lost city of the pyramid, sometimes called the workers' village, it's about 13 hectares. We have found their bakeries and their workshops, their houses, their grain silos for feeding the people. But it's only part of a much vaster city that existed at the foot of the pyramid's plateau.
Mark thinks 20,000 workers once lived here. They quarried the 5.7 million tons of sandstone needed to build the Great Pyramid alone. From the air, the view of the neighboring Pyramid of Khafre reveals there is another enigma to solve. Its summit is capped with smooth stones that once encased the entire structure. It's evidence that the Great Pyramid once looked very different.
The Great Pyramid of Khufu stood complete, covered with polished white limestone that must have been blinding when it reflected the sun.
The nearest source for the brilliant limestone was in Tura, 8 miles away on the other side of the Nile. So how did the ancients transport tons of this stone across miles of desert and a mighty river? Mark believes the sloping ground in front of this temple unlocks the mystery. It's a basin, the remains of a huge harbor and canal complex filled by floodwater that the ancients used to ferry stone to the construction site.
We have evidence that the pyramid builders used the 7-meter rise annually of the Nile flood as a huge hydraulic lift to bring blocks as high as they could and as close as they could to the pyramid plateau. It's almost what you don't see here that is even more impressive than the pyramids themselves.
The Nile made ancient Egyptian civilization possible. It wasn't just essential for transport, but for food too. And many Egyptians still depend on it today to survive. It's early morning on the island of Elephantine in southern Egypt. Father and son, Youssef and Karim Mohammed, are preparing to go fishing, as they do every day.
My family has lived on the Nile for more than 100 years. My father was a fisherman, and my father's father was a fisherman. He taught him, and then my father taught me. Now I'm teaching my son Karim like my father taught me.
Youssef and Karim are part of the Nubian community. They're descendants of some of the first people to settle in this area of the Nile Valley over 7,000 years ago.
For Nubians, the Nile is their life. They've always lived around the Nile.
Flooding caused by the building of a dam further south at Aswan displaced many Nubians from their land. So for Youssef, it's important to pass the old traditions on to his son, like how to catch fish the Nubian way. Youssef knows the big fish are in deep water on the other side of the river. To get there, father and son must cross a mile of choppy and congested waters in their tiny rowboat. All the while dodging ferries and fast, white-sailed felucca. A collision here would spell disaster.
Brian Berg is a master card stacker, holding 4